Channel Z and Knox Brew Hub present Knox Brew Radio and Podcast, an in-depth look at the craft beer scene in Knoxville and the latest craft beer news from around the country and all over the world. Brought to you by First Century Bank, family-owned local banking since 1894. And by longtime friends of the show, Grayson Subaru. Broadcasting live from the Hub in downtown Knoxville every Monday at 6 p.m. And now, kick back and crack one open with local beer's best friends, Zach Roskop and Stryker.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to Knox Brew Radio and Podcast. We are down here live at Knox Brew Hub every Monday at 6 o'clock, 421 Union Avenue, hanging out, having a good time, drinking some cold beer and enjoying ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
As always, I'm joined with my wonderful hosts. To my right and to my left, we have just Kevin and Candace Ace Preston, the Ace of Beers, as Kevin nicknamed her last week. How y'all doing?
Doing great, man. Having a great time.
I am wonderful. I'm doing great these days. Thanks, Zach.
Thank you guys for being here. And as always, we've got a great show lined up for us tonight. We're super excited as we have two wonderful guests that I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun with.
A lot of fun tonight.
Oh,
We might speed through the brew news a little quick tonight because
Yeah.
I'm super excited about getting to our guests this
That's
evening.
fine. I'm tired of talking about seltzer.
But yet, I have a feeling you have a seltzer.
But of course I do, because it makes news in some variant every week. So man.
Perfect. Well, thanks for hanging out, y'all. Let's dive into it. Before we get started, we always want to take a quick second and say a huge shout out to our sponsors for making this show possible. And literally, you'll see we've got a wonderful team of people up here. We've got Cam, our awesome video producer, who's working hard on the cameras.
Hey, Cam.
Cam on the cam.
I'll drink to
I
that.
will
I'll
definitely
drink
drink
to
to that. Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers.
Giving Cam some extra work. He's the one that does the I'll drink to that counter. So thank you, Cam. Kevin here is working on all the audio, making sure this is on the radio. Candace and I just get to drink beer. That's not true. I get to just drink beer and talk about it. Candace works hard on our blog. And the reason I'm telling you all this is that we're able to do this because of our sponsors.
Yes.
And that is a big thing. So I want to say a quick shout out to Grayson Subaru and First Century Bank. If you're interested in buying a Subaru, check out Grayson. Dan, they're a huge supporter of Knoxville beer. And First Century, who I can't say enough good things about, located downtown, family-owned, local bank. They've done so much for Knox Brew Tours, for Knox Brew Hub. And they're just, if you need, I know it's kind of a weird one, a bank, but I'm telling you guys, everyone here has one. You might as well have the best one.
Exactly.
And so for that reason, I'll drink to First Century
I
Bank
will
for
drink to that.
hanging out with
Thank you
us
so
as
much.
well.
Cheers to that.
All right, awesome. Well, let's go ahead and dive straight into it. Quit wasting time with this week's
Okay.
Brew News. All right, Candace, you want to go first?
Sure, I will start us off. So today marks the beginning of the 15th Annual American Craft Beer Week, which goes from today, Monday, May 10th, through Sunday, May 16th. This national holiday, hosted by the Brewers Association, encourages beer lovers to visit and support local tap rooms, breweries, and brew pubs. Following a tumultuous year with on-premise sales dropping double digits, this year's holiday honors the creativity, community, and resiliency of America's small and independent craft breweries by reminding beer lovers that local beer is better.
Obviously, American Craft Beer Week is a great time to celebrate craft beer.
Mm-hmm.
Traditionally, we've, the last 2 or 3 years, had Knoxville Craft Beer Week the week after. I'm sad to announce that that's not happening this year, but I am happy to announce I might have some insider information.
Maybe just a little.
We have a few dates planned for the fall for a full-blown Knoxville Craft Beer Week.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Awesome.
that'll be announced soon,
Awesome.
and I'll drink to that.
I will definitely drink to
I
that.
will as well.
Cheers.
But I hate to burst your bubble. I think you literally just announced it. So
Yeah, well, that's the only rule we have down here at the Hub is whenever we drink at the table, you all drink, okay? This is a drinking radio show, so let's try that again.
Yeah.
I'll drink to that.
I'll drink to that. Yeah. All right. Here's these. There we go.
Perfect. All right, this Thursday, I'm super honored and excited that I get to represent this wonderful group of people. Many of you may know about Pachakacha or Pechakucha. They say both names are
I've heard
acceptable.
it both ways.
Yeah, well, this Thursday at the latest Pachakacha, I will be speaking and talking about Knox Brew Stories.
Oh, yay.
Well, the story will begin, of course, with buying a minibus in the summer of 2014 and starting Knox Brew Tours, leading into the Hub, and then leading into this crazy thing that we're starting right now. So hopefully we'll get a few extra Instagram likes after
Hooray.
Thursday night. So
Awesome.
You can listen to that live on YouTube Live this Thursday as we talk about a lot of cool stuff happening in Knoxville and more information about Knox Brew Stories.
Very
Awesome.
cool. Thanks
And
for
I
representing
believe
us.
we do have another damn seltzer report.
That damn seltzer report. We do. But you know what? This week, it's good news. And I got to say, there's kind of a tie-in here to macro brews, and I really got to hand it to Miller Brewing Company. They may have just become my favorite macro because they have decided it's a good idea to launch seltzer into space. They're promoting they're trying to do this whole marketing thing where they're promoting themselves as a beer drinker's beer.
Mm-hmm.
So part of their gimmick is to launch seltzer into space.
Okay.
So now for a limited time you can go to a website and vote for which seltzer, whether it's made by one of their sister companies or a competitor, which one you want to see gone into space.
Sent into space.
So there's a lot of space junk up there. There might as well be some space, some space seltzer junk up there as well.
Our good friend Gregory Hedrick, the beer mayor, just asked, how many times can you vote?
Well, you know what? I've got a bot running that's voted 287 million times so far, and my answer was all of them. So I don't know. I mean, that's where the ticker's at right now. But you can visit the website, recommend a brand to be sent skyward, including offerings from rival companies, and then you can watch it live Thursday at 4 p.m. as they decide which seltzer. And I don't think they're going to launch all of them. They do need a bigger rocket, but I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful that on Thursday afternoon they launch all seltzers into space.
I'm a huge space nerd, obsessed with space. I have immediate follow-up questions that we'll find the answers to later. Like, where is this being launched from? What rocket? Who else is doing this? But most importantly, as much as I love space, if there's a bunch of seltzers up there, I might like it just a little bit less.
Oh, I'm wondering if the aliens will see that as an act of goodwill or violence. I don't know.
It's that, that's
That's
we'll
a great
just have
question.
to wait and see.
I don't
That
know.
is a
My
great
first
question.
seltzer experience was it was an act of violence. I'll say that much.
Or at least an act of mistrust.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I have trust issues. Someone told me, "Hey, you got to drink this. You'll love it." No,
And I haven't talked to them since.
no, not so much.
All right, we've got one more brew news story. Between last week's show and tonight's show, we have posted our first official Knox Brew Stories blog, titled
Awesome.
"A Middle Finger to the Mundane: The Crafty Bastard Story," written by our wonderful host, Candace Preston. If you haven't gotten a chance yet to read that blog post, I highly encourage it. It's a wonderful description of the story of Crafty Bastard and who they are. And I know you've got many more to come.
Oh, so many more.
Anything you want to add about that blog post before we move on?
Not particularly, just that it was truly a joy to write, and being able to go into all these spaces that I have been able to meet these people, or maybe it's my first time meeting these people and having a conversation with them. It's just making me fall more in love with Knoxville craft beer. So I'm just really grateful for the opportunity to be able to meet these people and tell these stories.
All right, perfect. Thanks.
Thank
Heck
you.
yeah.
All right, that's it for this week's Brew News. Now, we have not had a State of the Brewing in a while. That is a list of breweries in and around Knoxville. We said that we would only do a State of the Brewing if there was an update. Well, I'm happy to announce there is an update, but first, to perform for you live tonight, we have our official State of the Brewing song. You ready, Kevin?
ready.
Let's do it.
Beer, 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 beer. And thank you. And in the future, feel free to sing along if you know the word.
They did. They were singing along.
It's literally one word. But,
All right, that's perfect. All right, we are excited to announce that our Black Horse Brewery's Alcoa location is now officially open to the public for a minute.
Yeah.
They crushed it so much that they ran out of food, so they closed down temporarily.
And I drove by there today, and I was like, oh, they're open, they're closed. That was quick.
So next time you get a chance, you're out in Maryville, Alcoa area, check out our newest brewery to open. Black Horse's restaurant and brewery has opened in Alcoa.
It looks great.
I right. Wait to check it out myself.
It's in a great
Congratulations,
location,
Black
yeah.
Horse.
And
I'll drink to
then
that.
we have it. Yeah, I'll drink to that.
I will definitely
Yeah,
drink to
I'll
that.
drink to that. Cheersies. All right.
And now we have one more update for our State of the Brewing. This is a new brewery in planning
Yep.
that just Kevin discovered today.
Yep. I actually last night I spotted it. It's up in Townsend, and there's been a place up there for a while called the Dancing Bear Resort, and it's an event venue.
Yeah.
And I went to a wedding there last summer. Apparently, the place has done pretty well because Dancing Bear Brewing Company is putting in a location right there by the IGA. Little IGA gas station grocery store combo
very
deal
cool.
right there in Townsend. So there's the big
That-
signs up there. It's under construction. Things are happening, and I tried to snoop around a little bit, and I couldn't get in. So
Do they not
I
know
didn't have
who
a
you
hard
are?
hat. Well, I wasn't wearing a hard hat, so
Hey, the
OSHA.
two ways to get in: hard hat and a microphone. Let's
Yep.
bring a microphone next time.
Yeah, darn it.
All right, folks, that's it for this week's State of the Brewing. We will add those changes to our list. If you want to see the full and complete list, check out knoxbrewtours.com/State of the Brewing. And that's it for this week's State of the Brewing. As I said 10 more times. Okay. All right. As always, we love music, so we're going to take a quick break and listen to some music. During this break, this is your last chance to submit your questions for our guest. You'll submit them to Charles at the bar. We'll grab them and look through them here in just a second. And, and then Matt and James, get ready. We need you up here at the table. Grab a beer.
To Knox Brew Radio.
All right, and now it's time for my favorite part of every single show, where we basically just get to sit down at a table and drink some beers with friends of ours, totally normally and casually, except for with microphones and cameras and sound systems and headphones and an audience. It's completely normal other than that. We've got some good friends of ours joining us at the table right now, and I guess we'll just dive straight into it and introduce them. Directly to my left, we have the man, the myth, the legend. I'm referring to his haircut, Mr. Matt Malone from Alliance Brewing Company. Y'all give it up for Matt Malone.
Welcome, Matt.
A little bit of fun facts about Matt. I think Matt and I were 6 months away from basically a common law marriage as we lived together for
100%.
almost 8 years. At one point during that time period, we shared a room in which we had bunk beds as adults. This was around age 23-ish. Been very lucky to travel all over the U.S. with Matt and spend a lot of time with him. And we'll get into this a little bit later, but Knox Brew Tours might not exist if it wasn't for Matt Malone as well.
Shucks.
Hey, Matt, thanks for joining us on the show, man.
Happy to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is a long time coming, and so thanks for hanging out.
Absolutely.
All right, now to his left, we have James. James is a wonderful bartender here, bar guide at Knox Brew Hub. James him and I's story begins with me dropping drunk people off at the Casual Pint downtown and him having to deal with them. James not only he knows more about this place than I do, as he bartended here for several years when it was the Casual Pint downtown before it was Knox Brew Hub.
He came with the building.
He came. He's been a wonderful team member here at the Hub and a great asset. And James, I've told you this before, but more people ask me when you're working than anyone else. You're a wonderful person, and I'm excited to have you on the show. So thanks for being here, man.
Ooh, thank you. Wow.
Hey, I'll drink to that.
Absolutely. Cheers.
All right, perfect. So let's dive in first with you, James. I'd like to. So obviously, a lot of people initially notice that you have an accent.
Yes.
And they always ask you, "Are you from Australia?"
Usually they say, what part of Australia you're from?
With confidence.
with a lot of confidence.
It's not,
yes.
"Are you from Australia?" It's what part of Australia.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're not even close to Australia, but you have a great explanation for why they might think that. So where are you from?
I'm from New Jersey, which most of you may know. It's it's right next to New York. I was born in Teaneck, New Jersey. It's a beautiful place, lots of greenery. But I that is 100% true, but I moved to England when I was 1. So before I remember it, I don't remember New Jersey. Luckily, that's why I am the way that I am and not what you think of a New Jersey. But I lived my whole life in Surrey, England, which is just south of London.
Just south of London.
Yeah.
And so I think the joke that you made was, if you take an English accent and a redneck accent, it sounds Australian.
Yeah, Australians are they are the rednecks of England, and I will stand by that fact for the rest of my life. And now I sound like one because I've got a little bit of Tennessee in me, and all the rest is English. So
all the rest is English. Perfect. So what brought you from Surrey, England to Knoxville, Tennessee?
I moved to New York originally straight out of university. Went to university for business and statistics. And I very much enjoyed it. Lived in New York for 2 years. My father's from New Jersey. The rest of my family lives there, so I was pretty familiar with the area already. And I hated it. It was the worst experience of living I've had so far. I did it for 2 years, loved my job, but I just knew I didn't want to live in a big city anymore. So I started traveling down the East Coast, and I knew some people that I met online. I am young, yes. I met people online, and I went to visit them. And it was in Tennessee. And actually, Cookeville, Tennessee is where I moved to first, with no ambition and no drive to do anything at all. So I drank in Cookeville for a little while. And I walked
That's easy to do in Cookeville.
Yeah, absolutely. I ended up walking into a bar, and the bartender, or the owner, pretty much just said, "Hey, you're British, you've got that accent, do you want to bartend?" And I was like, I like beer, so I must like bartending. And the rest is history. So I've been doing it for 7 years now, and I can't.
You've been here for 7 years?
Yeah, in Tennessee for almost six years, I think. Yeah.
6 years. Awesome.
The rest is history.
Well, we're lucky for that story. Lucky
Thank
that you ended
very
up
much.
here.
I'm glad I'm here. I love Knoxville, and I've been in Knoxville for 5 years, and there's no plans on leaving. So
no plans on leaving. I love that. It's got you like it's got the rest of us. We love this city so much.
And he's been right here in this building the whole time.
for a majority of Knoxville, I've been in this building. I hid under the bar while it was under reconstruction. I popped up. He could have not hired me, and this is it. That's what I say.
Yeah. It was in the lease agreement.
It was.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right, Matt, before we ask you a little bit about you, let's talk a little bit about this beer that we have from Alliance Brewing Company. I was talking to Chris Howard, who is one of the owners at Alliance Brewing Company. He said that this beer, this is the Czech Pilsner, which is a Czech-style Pilsner. It's obviously, as the name implies, it is delicious, crushable. It's got a little bit more bitterness than a typical light lager, as tradition to Czech style. And it's crushable. Chris was telling me that this beer is slowly becoming your second highest-selling beer at Alliance Brewing Company.
That is correct.
So, as the bartender there, as one of the many bartenders there, you pour probably the CMS the most.
Yes.
Followed by the Czech Pilsner.
Yep.
Tell me what people's reaction to this beer is, and just anything you want to mention about it.
Well, so when we upgraded the brew house last year, we started out with just a basic American light lager. Started doing some distribution, that was going well, and then our two brewers, Adam and Ryan, decided to do a Czech Pilsner. It's one of their favorite styles, and Eagle, our distribution company, actually came back to us and said, "This is already way more popular than your light lager. Can you please continue doing this instead?" So we said, yeah, so we do both. But yeah, that has quickly become the number 2 seller right behind the CMS.
Well, I'll drink to that. How about you guys?
Sounds good. Cheers.
Everybody in here should have some of this
Yes.
beer in front of you, so join along with us here. Cheers, y'all. Yeah, that is delicious, crushable, and chuggable. Also, I love this beer because James can probably speak to this. I'm a little bit of a craft beer nerd crackhead, and I keep adding glassware here at the hub. I'm like slowly sneaking one glass in every like 3 to 4 weeks, and I love that we serve the Czech Pilsner in the traditional dimpled German mug here.
I do love that.
He had so much going for him until he got addicted to the glass. Man.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's like a TV show about that, I think. So perfect. All right, so James, what got you into the casual pint, and kind of what is it that drew you to bartending in the craft beer?
So I think the first day I ever went into I worked at Tupelo Honey next door as a bartender there for maybe about a year. I ended up working here 6 months later and doing both. But the first time I went in there, Charles Ellis was actually there giving out T-shirts and trying to promote Yeehaw beer to the bartenders at Tupelo Honey.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, that guy seems cool. Obviously, I found out he is not very cool at all. Charles Ellis is the most amazing man, and he definitely was the beginning of me learning more about craft beer. And especially coming from Europe, I guess I drank a lot of what a lot of people would consider good beer before I understood that was what it was. I just like to drink, so I just did it. But being in America, you can see a new brewery everywhere you go. So traveling just became, well, what breweries are here? What breweries are there? And so now everywhere I go to a new brewery, and it really got me into the scene in Knoxville, talking to all the great people and the brewers and the bartenders all around here. Made it really easy to get into craft beer. And then I came in here and I drank after Tupelo every shift. And once again, they were like, do you want a job? And I was like, I guess I do. And that's it. And the rest is history. And I preferred working here, so I just stuck around.
Perfect. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll drink to that.
I'll drink to that. Cheers. What has the this? It feels like a weird question for me to ask you, but I have to ask you. What is the transition from Casual Pint to Knox Brew Hub been like, and what was COVID like, as a bartender in Knoxville?
The beginning, so the transition was fairly easy at the beginning because I went from being a bartender to being a bartender, and that was easy. I just pouring beer. But as time went on, you realize not being a part of a franchise and being under Zach Roskop and his crazy and imaginative ideas, you just have to kind of keep going.
That's accurate.
Yeah. And which it's much more exciting as a bartender to be a part of the process of what do I do next, what's next for the building and for the establishment. At the Casual Pint, I just poured beer and I ordered beer, and that's all I did. And I loved it, and I enjoyed it. I like talking to people, I like doing it. But it's much more of a challenge to work here because you have to think of the whole business. You're a part of the business. I've been here since day one, or close to it.
Negative one,
and it feels like it's a part of me, and I'm a part of it. So it's definitely a very different, more of an emotional attachment to it, and more of a thought process behind what goes on next.
Yeah.
So
well, you've been a big part of a lot of what we've done here, and often when I have a crazy idea, you're like in the top 3 of people I run it by before we decide to actually do it. So thanks for that. I appreciate it.
I'm a terrible person to run stuff by because I just get excited no matter what. just no matter what it is, I just get
Everyone
so
needs
excited.
a hype man. So
I am
that's
that
what you're
hype man,
here for.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, speaking of crazy ideas, this is going to sound weird. Matt and I were in our bedroom, and
He did say our bedroom.
Do
That is
tell.
correct.
and
Is that where the hair came from? Just curious.
Greg's going to drink to that one. Hopefully someone didn't just tune in and they heard the joke, the story earlier. But I had been talking to Matt about this idea to start a brewery tour company. And I love beer, and I love Knoxville, and I love people, and Matt did as well. And I will never forget the moment where I was sort of teetering with the idea. And for me, the very first step that started all of this was buying the domain name knoxbrewtours.com. And I was telling Matt, I was like, should I do it? I don't know if I should do this or not. This doesn't make any sense. And Matt was the one that looked at me and he's like, dude, what are you waiting for? Just do it.
Let's go.
Buy it. Do it. And so then it was, so.
Let's go.
You'll drink to that? All right, Cam, your work's cut out for you today. That was the very first dollar spent for Knox Brew Tours, encouraged by you. That was a big deal.
It was.
The next question was, do I get the 1-year subscription, the 5 years? It was
it was a whole thing.
After that, Matt and I started to look at buses on Craigslist. I started to build a website. We started doing all these crazy ideas. And here's something many people don't know. But the first 97, 98-ish tours, Matt was the driver, I was the guide. We probably did the first 100 tours together. If one of us had to work, we didn't offer a tour that day because we both were working other jobs. So I want to say thanks to you, Matt, and cheers for pushing me to get that started.
I'll drink to that.
Oh, this is not getting old at all. Just to be clear, that wasn't sarcasm. I'm loving these drink breaks. Matt, what are some of your earliest memories of the creation of Knox Brew Tours?
Oh man. Well, as people know, as a lot of people know by now, we used to be in a band together. That was our past life. We were touring musicians together, and that came to kind of a sudden end. And so our lead guitarist and our lead singer both had kind of already figured out what they were doing next in life. And Zach and I had this weird 3-4 month period where we really didn't know what was next for us. And that was where the whole Knox Brew Tour idea came from. And so we launched it. We scoured the internet for short buses on Craigslist. I remember, what was it, Louisville that we found?
We ended up going to Louisville because there was. This is a bet. There was a lot of short buses available in Louisville. And
that's exactly.
There were a lot of mini buses available in Louisville, Kentucky. So we were excited that we could go and look at several of them in one trip.
Yep.
One of them I remember had all black interior carpet with a pole in the middle.
Yep.
That was a hard no.
What could have
for
been?
Zach? It was a hard no.
So actually, here's the funny part was they had posted the address of the bus on the internet, but there was no one there. So I just jiggled the doorknob to see if it was open, and it was. So I could have stumbled
Sounds
upon
legit, Zach.
something I didn't want.
Yeah.
The second bus that we looked at, I think, I don't remember what was wrong with it, but the third bus was just outside of Louisville. We drove through a bunch of horse farms, and there was a couple of good old boys who had taken a bus and converted it into a hunting RV. Yep. And so they had a couple bunks in the back for a bed. They had a microwave, a mini fridge. They had a satellite dish that they could use to detect the weather, and they had these floodlights on the back. So what they would do is they'd wake up at 4:30 in the morning, turn the floodlights on, get their guns ready, check the weather, they'd turn the lights off, and they'd go hunting. And they loved that bus.
It was awesome. Yeah.
They loved that bus so much, and this is actually a funny story. So we bought it, we drove home, and I said, "Hey Matt, this is the most ridiculous story. I cannot believe I'm about to tell this." I said, "Matt, these guys worked hard to put bunks in this bus, and we have to rip these bunks out. The least we could do is honor them by sleeping in this bus one more time."
Yep.
So the bus is in the driveway of our house.
We've got it plugged in. We're running an extension cord through the living room window.
We have an extension cord through the house.
Yeah.
Because Matt and I both have to sleep with a fan. Don't ask me how I know that. And
keep in mind, we have a perfectly good house that we're living in at the time.
And so Matt and I both fall asleep on these bunks in this bus. I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and Matt is gone. Nowhere to be found. I walk inside, he's asleep in bed. In his bed, not mine.
I lasted maybe 45 minutes. I waited for him to fall asleep. I was like, screw this, I'm not doing this. And went inside and went to bed.
But then the next day, we got some hammers and some,
we ripped it apart,
it all out. We cleaned the bus out, and that was the beginning of Knox Brew Tours.
Yep. I don't know, what are some of the... so, I love putting into perspective the growth of the Knoxville craft beer industry purely off of the timeline with Knox Brew Tours. When we started it, we had the one bus. It was just Zach and I running it, and we had one route with 3 breweries, and that was it. And it was Black Horse when they were still out in Bearden.
We went to Black Horse first.
Calhoun's on Bearden Hill.
Because there was the original Smoky Mountain Brewery there.
And then Saltworks Brewing.
Yeah.
And that was the original route for the first.
That was the first 97 tours.
Yeah.
The 98th tour included Blue Tick, and the 115th tour included Crafty Bastard Brewery.
Yep, that's right.
But you two have been on some amazing adventures since then. That may have been the first time you slept in the bus, but it certainly was not the last.
Oh,
yeah. We did. We were both very lucky and got to. Matt and I visited 76 breweries in 21 days. Every brewery in the state of Tennessee in 3 weeks, and we have a hard drive hidden somewhere.
I'll drink to that.
Yeah, I'll drink to that. Sure. That was a wonderful. You know what? How about this, Matt? Let's do this again, just the two of us, And we'll make the
Just the Tennessee beer run.
We'll talk about the Tennessee beer
Yeah.
run, and we'll upload that to the podcast only version.
Absolutely.
So we'll have a Matt and Zach part.
I know
2.
somebody in the audience has been waiting to see this footage for a very long time. So
Gregory Hedges.
Yeah.
You got a question?
Oh, no, I'm good now.
Oh, you're good now. Okay, perfect. I have one more question I got several questions for James, but my next question, and then let's pull from our audience here. We've got some questions from the audience. James, I can't believe I'm about to ask you this, but what is, as the bartender of Casual Pint at the time, where every public brew tour that we ever had started and ended, I hate to ask this question, but what was the time you were the most pissed off at Knox Brew Tours?
I mean, there's been a handful of times. The UT game tours or UT game day tours or anything that involved a thing already going on and then just a bus full of drunk people coming in and Candace just staring at me like, all right, and then just leaving.
Good luck.
Or whoever was running the tour that day, I was just like, oh my God, come on. Like, and I had to serve them because I was like, they just had a great time on the brew tour. I saw them 4 hours ago. They've been here, I've worked a whole shift. They've drank a whole shift. So I'm like, well, I gotta give them some beer. I'm like, you guys can get to-go beer. We have so much to-go beer. You can just go home and it'll be fantastic. You can drink it at home. You guys are so ready for it. They're like, no, we love you, James. Come on, let's drink another beer with you. And I'm like, God, why was I so nice at the beginning of the tour? Why was I at the beginning of the tour? I should have been mean to them. But no.
Oh, that's great.
Honestly, for the most part, all of them, everybody was super nice. They were like very appreciative of Knoxville beer after they came back.
Good.
And we didn't have the best selection of Knoxville beer at the Casual Pint, unfortunately. But we had a decent amount, so it was always nice to see them come back, and then I'd ask them, oh, what's your favorite? What was the best one you went to? Or, you know, and honestly, most of them would say, well, they were all pretty good, and then it's an easy conversation.
Yeah.
So it was always nice that side. Yes, some of them got way too drunk. I'm sure you guys knew that. You knew the people as soon as they got on the bus.
Yeah.
I knew the people before they left the Casual Pint. I was like,
which ones were going to be trouble when they came
I was like,
back?
I'm going to see them in 4 hours. He's going to be yelling at me. He's going to be like, you're British. And I'm like, yep, I am.
I thought you were going to say, he comes back and he's like, what part of Australia are you from?
I already told you this. I'm from England.
All right, so I guess I have a question for Matt. So we heard about, James, why you got your start in bartending, but I'm curious to how you got your start with Alliance. You say you've been with them for a little over 3 years, so what about Alliance really drew you to them?
So super, I'll go through it extremely quickly, getting into bartending in general. After we'd started Knox Brew Tours, Zach and I started Knox Brew Tours for a couple of years, I'd always had the itch. We'd always been tied to Knoxville because of our music stuff. Mm-hmm. And so for the first time in my life, I could kind of do whatever I wanted to do. I really hadn't had that ability up until now. Yeah. And I'm a beach bum at heart. I'm born and raised Knoxville, East Tennessee, mm-hmm. but I'm a beach bum at heart. And I always wanted to live on the beach. So I had this thought process of like, I'm 27, 28, however old I was at the time, not married, no kids. If I'm going to live on the beach, now's the time to do it. Yeah. So ended up in St. Pete, Florida, outside of Tampa, and was down there for about a year. Two things that ultimately brought me back. One, I didn't expect the Tennessee or the Knoxville craft beer scene to blow up nearly as much as it did. Yeah. It had kind of plateaued off slightly when I moved out. And so I'm down there for about 4 or 5 months, and all of a sudden Zach starts calling me, and he's like, hey, man, I need you to come home for the weekend, and I got this private gig that I can't do. I need you to run one of the buses for me, et cetera, et cetera. So I kept coming back. And I'm going to trail off again. I'm going to go on about 3 different side stories here. But for Zach and I, growing up in West Knoxville, we had never done the whole downtown thing. Knoxville, for me, still to this day, when I think Knoxville, I think Paper Mill West, because that's what I grew up in. I still feel like I moved back to a really cool, hip city 5 miles down the road from where Knoxville actually is.
Yeah,
seriously, like that's my brain still processes Knoxville.
We've talked about that a lot growing up in West Knoxville. And then moving to downtown Knoxville, you might as well have moved to St. Pete. It's sort of, you hit the reset button on so many aspects of your life, and there's such a culture change, and it's such a different place with a lot more going on that exactly. We both moved out of Knoxville. I went downtown, and you went to St. Pete.
Yeah, we moved at the same time, actually. He moved downtown, and I moved to St. Pete. So anyway, I'm down there. we ended up doing the Tennessee beer run. He'd been floating that idea with me, and we'll talk more about it on another podcast apparently, but he'd been floating that idea with me, and then he calls me about a month later and he goes, I went full Zach Roskop, this thing's happening, I need you to come home now. And so I come up here, I do it with him, I go back down to St. Pete, and I had all these memories. I'm feeling super homesick. I'd seen all our friends, all these things, and I'll never forget, I'm sitting on the beach one night, and I'm sitting there drinking a couple of tall boys. It's like 10 o'clock at night. I'm on the phone with Zach, and I'm being big sad. I'm just like, man, I love it down here, but I hate my job, but I miss being back home, and the beer run thing was awesome, and blah, 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 blah. So we're on the phone for about 45 minutes, and we hang up for the night. It's about 11:30 at this point. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden my phone rings, and it's a good friend of the show in the Knoxville craft beer scene in general by the name of Johnny Miller.
Yeah.
Who we all know is a total... No, just kidding.
Yeah, who we all... Yeah,
drink
yeah.
to that.
I'll drink to... Exactly. Cheers to Johnny Miller.
Cheers,
So,
Johnny.
hang on, I got a drink. Hang on. So...
Wait, real quick.
Yeah.
Johnny says he has more questions for me, so we're going to do another follow-up podcast.
Perfect. I can't wait.
That'll be available at Knox Brew Podcast.
So I'm sitting there on the beach, just hung up the phone with Zach. Phone rings, it's Johnny Miller. I'm not talking to him in probably 5-6 months. I go, well, that's way too coincidental, because I just got off the phone with Zach. And I pick up the phone, and before I can literally say a word, Johnny goes, cut the shit. I know you're homesick. I just talked to Roskop. Get your ass back up here and help me open up Pretentious Beer Company. And
Yay, Johnny Miller.
And Johnny, yes. And I sat there for about 5 seconds in silence, and I had nothing. I went, all right, give me about 10 days to get my affairs in order down here, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. And so I came back up here, actually helped Johnny.
Moved back in with me.
Moved back in with Zach, actually, yes. Moved
For
back
the
in
third
with Zach.
time.
Yes.
Welcome home,
Moved
honey.
back in with Zach, exactly. And
Separate bedrooms this time.
it was, most of the time. And
It's the little upgrades that mean so much.
exactly. And I helped the Pretentious guys open up. Pretentious at the time, it was just a tap room with different beers on. They hadn't become an actual brewery yet, so I got to be a part of that transition, help them open up the brewery and everything. And slowly but surely, the Alliance guys had reached out to me, and it started out, hey, we need a bartender on a Wednesday night, whatever. Great, that's the one night I don't work. This will work out perfectly. And slowly, just over time, I found myself fitting in better with Alliance. Chris, that Zach mentioned earlier, actually reached out to me at one point and was interested in turning it into kind of the official Premier League soccer bar in Knoxville. And
They needed somebody to get up at 6
right,
a.m.
Exactly, yeah.
Like,
and
James
he's
is
like,
shaking his head.
Yeah,
James
and
is
he's
shaking
like-
his head.
I don't wanna talk
Shots
about it.
fired.
No, it's a sensitive subject for soccer right now. But Chris, apparently I had that look of somebody that would like to get up at 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning and drink beer and watch soccer. So,
Really?
yeah, I don't know where that came from, but yeah. So that
Matt's
it just
secret
kept
is he
going.
doesn't go to bed.
That's exactly. So I just it kept on going, and finally it just got to the point to where I was just at Alliance more on a full-time basis, and still friends with the Pretentious guys, hang out with them almost every single day, but it just ended up over at Alliance eventually. So, yeah.
Love that. Thank you.
And that's Matt keeping it short.
That is me keeping it short. I promise.
Okay, so we can get rid of these.
All right, Candace, what questions do we have next?
All right. Well, let's. James, there are a Burnley and Southampton fan in the crowd. They just wanted to say thank you.
Oh, God.
So,
Oh, God.
No, somebody did you?
Oh, my
I
God.
don't even know what I just did there.
That is way
I
too
haven't
soon.
met a Burnley
Sorry.
fan in England. What are you doing here?
Too soon. Too soon.
It's been an hour.
It's been an hour.
All right, let me see if I can redeem myself. Mea culpa. I'm so sorry. Okay, question, and then I'll piggyback with my own question. What is your favorite English pub food that you cannot find here in the U.S.?
Ooh.
And is there a beer that you particularly enjoy that you really can't find around here?
I'll say the beer, not really. We have a cask engine here, and I love it. And I think that kind of satisfies my cravings most of the time for like a traditional English pub beer, especially the one we have on right now. And as far as food goes, like meat pie or just pies in general, I don't know how to describe them really, but they're just pastry and steak and onion or steak and kidney pies.
Ooh.
Yeah, they're very good. English food is not that bad. People think it's terrible. It's really not that bad.
It's pretty good.
That sounds like someone who's never been to England. It's not that bad. And we hate, or curry. You really can't get very good curry around here, to be honest.
Nice.
All right. So a lot of the questions for Matt, you were just being horrifically razzed. What's your favorite thing about your baby sister? That's a nice one.
Oh my God.
And then who was your favorite teacher at Bearden? What did you learn? And where's his rum?
Wait. Hold on. We got to back this up a little bit. Matt didn't answer the first question. Matt, what is your favorite thing about your baby sister?
Literally everything.
Aww.
Everything.
I'll drink to that.
Yes.
To your baby sister, apparently.
Whoa, it's his sister.
No, that's his sister.
Okay. All right,
What was the second half
Next
of that?
question. Who is your favorite teacher at Bearden?
Ooh. I never had Coach Faust. I never had him.
Well,
so.
you don't have to have him. He's still a teacher.
I mean,
He was still
absolutely.
a
By
teacher.
that standard, absolutely. The guy sitting in the crowd right there. 100%.
What did you learn in high school, Matt? And James, this question's for both of you. What did you guys learn in high school?
That
We're going off the rails.
That D's really do get degrees.
D's get degrees. Hold on, one quick funny story about Matt. You guys know how when you get your graduation picture, they'll send you in the mail like an option for you to purchase the photos, but they don't want to send you the actual photos because then you wouldn't purchase them. So they put the word proof over it. There's a photo of Matt in his cap and gown. It says proof.
100%. 100%.
And they just
framed it.
They were like, perfect.
Boom, call it a day.
You put proof on there for us. Then
Yeah,
we have
that's
proof
it.
of Matt
Yeah.
graduated.
At the time, we thought George Bush, No Child Left Behind was a great thing, but there you go.
James?
In high school?
Put you on the spot. What?
I don't know what I learned. Don't go to an all-boys high school.
Oh, Lordy. All right, last question for you, Matt. Where is Coach Faust's rum?
Well, based on the house that I was house sitting this past week, it's about a fourth of the way gone on top of the liquor cabinet.
You want me to answer? That's good.
One time, I might have eaten most of Matt's. Matt, what did you? Matt had pizza rolls in the freezer once, and I ate most of them. And Matt said, "Are they all gone?" And I said, "They're not all there."
That's accurate.
You got something, Candace?
Yeah, so we have one more question that I would like to ask, and this actually goes to Mama Calls Me Kevin.
Boy.
Referencing earlier, are they sending the seltzers to Uranus?
No, that's where all seltzers originate.
I will drink to that.
Yeah, I'll drink to that.
I'm out of beer. All right. It's become a tradition of the show. We have to keep this tradition alive. I've asked every guest on the show this question, and I'm going to continue to ask it until it doesn't seem relevant anymore, but it still seems very relevant to me. Looking back on the last year, what has been an overwhelmingly positive experience that you'll remember for the rest of your life? The time that you were a bartender during a global pandemic at a craft beer establishment here in Knoxville, Tennessee. I can stall if you guys need more time.
Yeah,
It doesn't
James.
matter.
It's easy.
James, go ahead.
The first second Greg walked in the door when I was working here is the best experience I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, great!
Hey.
Is that your end? This is it? This is when Greg came in?
I also got engaged.
There we go.
All right, Matt, looking back on this time period as when you were a bartender during a global pandemic, what's something you'll never forget?
The absolute overwhelming love and support from the community.
100%.
Yeah. everybody on the bartending front is freaking out when it happens. All the businesses, I'll actually never forget this. It was a Monday night, and the rumors were starting to fly pretty heavily that everything was going to start getting shut down. And Caba actually had an emergency meeting at Alliance. And I was bartending, and so all the powers that be, all the owners and a lot of the head brewers got together and all just kind of got on a united front, like, hey, we think this is going to happen probably sometime this week. What are we going to do? How are we going to handle this? And I'll never forget, it was kind of a beautiful, it was sad under the conditions, but it was a beautiful moment. A handful of us ended up over at Last Days of Autumn till about 2 o'clock in the morning with Mike.
Yep.
Just, we were all kind of lost, to be quite honest. Everybody's just kind of sitting there, not really saying a whole lot. We got some music playing in the background, drinking some beers, but everybody's just kind of trying to think about and figure out what we're going to do next. But no, anyway, so after moving forward from that, though, just in general, the overwhelming support when we went into full-blown lockdown quarantine, we could still do to-go only. And with Alliance, we literally just pushed a table up against the door. We had the door propped open. We had a table right there, and it was crowlers to go. And if it wasn't bolted to the floor, people bought it. People were showing up just, I'll take that shirt, I'll take that gift card, I'll take those crowlers. Doesn't matter. We had people just literally dumping money into our Venmo accounts for us, just to, hey, people would send us messages and just say, hey, if this wasn't going on, I would be here drinking right now, and this is how much money I would be spending, and this is what I'd be tipping, so here you go. And that was just a really freaking beautiful thing to happen. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
And that even happened at the Pint, too. Like, people were just very grateful to get any kind of local beer, and we tried to carry as much as we could, but Knoxville as a whole really gathered together as a community. And I don't think there's many cities in America that could do it like how it happened here, but cheers to all of you for taking care of it.
I'll drink to that.
Cheers, guys.
To you all for keeping Knoxville beer alive. We really appreciate you all. Thank you so much. To add to that, here's a little fun fact for you. The Knoxville area breweries all decided to shut their doors 3 or 4 days prior to when they were forced to.
That's
right. Our Knoxville beer community has taken COVID-19 very seriously, and I think we said it best when we said our breweries. During that time, there was a little protest, and we said we are not a bar, we set the bar. And I'm very proud of the way our brewing community handled this situation. So,
absolutely.
Cheers.
Drink to that.
All right. Well, gentlemen, I might regret saying this. First, calling you gentlemen. Second,
That's fair.
Second, asking you this: is there anything else you would like to say to our wonderful audience here, or to YouTube land, or to podcast land before we let you go?
Well, first of all, thanks to Zach for having me on, and for opening Brew Hub. I think it's a great place. Love working here.
I'll drink to that.
And Kevin's putting Cam to work tonight. Yeah.
Thanks to Stryker, and Channel Z. I think this place is awesome. The radio show's been going fantastic. Everybody enjoys it. We're drinking a lot of beer, which I like to do. The best part of it. And thanks to Matt Malone, my co-guest.
Quit it.
We can forget the rest of them because me and Matt Malone could have run.
There we go. Yes, 100%. Cheers, bud. Yes. Cheers, y'all.
Meanwhile, I'll be over there. Okay, bye, guys.
Oh, man.
I think James might still be mad at you for all those brew tours.
That's exactly...
That's fair.
All right,
That's
Matt.
fair.
Any final comments before we let you go?
I saw a twinkle in Matt's eye as you asked the question, so let's see what happens.
That's a frightening.
I got nothing. James summed it up great. That was a good summary right there.
Well, here's a little teaser for the podcast. Whenever we do record it, I'm going to ask you, what is one thing that you're going to tell people that you know for a fact I don't want you to tell people?
Oh, God. Ooh.
Not now, on the podcast.
Okay.
All right, James, thanks for hanging out with us. Matt, thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We really
Thanks for
appreciate you guys for joining us on the show tonight. And without further ado, cheers.
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 What a wonderful 35 minutes we've had there. I don't know how long it's been. But let's give a quick shout out to Amy for keeping us having full glasses here, and Charles, your wonderful bartender. All right, folks, we're going to take one more quick break. When we come back, we're going to do This Week on Tap, a list of events happening this week you don't want to miss out on, and then we're going to tell you who we're featuring next week on the show.